Hey guys, MrPokke here, back with another video, and today we are going to talk about the brand new Voice of Galaxy developer radio featuring the upcoming plans for Honkai Starbucks version 2.3. Now I know by now you guys have probably seen all of the content creators who are just like beelining for the first one to get through, right? So what we're gonna be doing today is at least offer a little bit of a thoughts on the future of Honkai Starbucks, especially with what is developed for this version 2.3 developer radio. Right? So without further ado, let's get into today's content. Subscribe! Just to briefly summarize everything, I'm not going to repeat everything because I think by now you guys have all known. Similar to the universe, we're going to get a new form of SU called Divergent Universe. Basically, more blessings, more cures. I'm not exactly sure if this is going to be a duplicate of Storm Disaster and Golden Gales. But what I do know is that we do have more blessings, more cures, and we can clear the boss instantly. And once clearing the Divergent Universe, we can enter the save file. And upon this save file, we can directly challenge the boss instantly, right? Using whatever cures and whatever blessings you have. So we don't have to keep repeating the same SU over and over again. So this is their version of massively reducing the SU completion time for players who want to farm for planar ornaments. But that being said, I would say it doesn't really address the core issue of planar sets themselves. They are just a pain in the ass to farm. They are absolutely, I'm not sure if you guys have noticed, or maybe it's just me, planar's 2-piece, they tend to be a lot more difficult to farm compared to your normal 4-piece Cavern of Corrosions, because there are just so many different combinations of main stats for your sphere and rope. And ER rope simply does not exist because they have the absolute lowest drop rate. It's like what, 3.5% drop rate for ER rope, which is absolutely insane, as well as the fact that you want the specific elemental spheres and all that kind of stuff. So from my experience, planar farming is still not gonna be that easy. Even with this, you know, it's faster, but now you're spending your stamina faster. It's not like you're like miraculously getting better planar drops, right? I'm not sure if you have seen my 300% planar event. I got completely so it is what it is. So that is gonna be the first update for the planar event, and honestly I'm not really that going crazy like this changes everything. To me this changes something, but I think it doesn't change everything, right? So we're also gonna see some new rewards, right? We're gonna get more strategies. This is gonna be very standard new mode. We're always gonna get new strategies and all kind of stuff, so we don't really care about it that much. But this is quite interesting. We now have a restart option. So for those players with massive skill issue, when you're gonna enter into a boss fight and when you die, you can now restart. You don't have to accidentally force quit your game anymore. You'll never encounter a black screen. Oh shit, especially for like streamers, right? Hey, we're not taking shot. Hey, streamers, you know, who have some problems, you know, crashing their game when you're playing SU too much, you know, hey, you don't have to do that anymore because now you can restart the boss with the technique points refunded, which is really nice, right? So that's gonna be really good. So it's similar to how we do our MOC and all that kind of stuff. So far, I would say a decent step towards the changes for Simulator Universe, but the one that I am more interested on is going to be this new permanent game mode, Apocalyptic Shadow. This changes everything. I feel like there's a lot to talk about here. So we're just gonna yap because yapping is my specialty. So we're just gonna talk about what exactly is Apocalyptic. In summary, we are fighting bosses, right? So I am pretty sure this boss is either going to be the Echoes of War boss or a altered variation of bosses that we fought in the MOC 12 or Simulator Universe. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be Echoes of War, if I'm not mistaken, because Echoes of War, it fits perfectly for this, right? Theoretically speaking, I have no idea what they are, but I'm just theoretically speaking, right? So the way they introduce new combat strategies from what we see here, we don't exactly know if it's strictly going to be single target. We only know it's gonna be enemy bosses. But as we know in Memory of Chaos 12 as well as in like Simulator Universe, even though it's an enemy boss, it doesn't mean that they're gonna be single target only, right? Yanqing, he summons his swords. True Swarm, he can split himself into two, and all the little bugs. The new blue bug that you guys have seen that new players just die to because of massive skill issues. He spawns a lot of bugs as well. What other thing? Kokolia summons ice pillars, all that kind of stuff. Sarok summons his hands. So Sam also, okay, so like my point is, it is not exactly single target. I don't think it is strictly going to be single target. Probably, maybe there is no wave 1, wave 2. We're just gonna go into one wave against the final boss himself, like how we are currently fighting Echoes of War. That is my prediction, that is my theory. I'm not sure if I'm correct, but that's just what I'm thinking, right? So this is gonna be the brand new endgame content, because you can see here, all of our current endgame content is gonna be 720 Stellar Jades and into our current Pure Fiction as well as Memory of Chaos. Alright, and we're gonna see a schedule rotation into week 1, week 3, week 5, so 1, 3, 5 for Apocalyptic Shadow, Pure Fiction, Memory of Chaos. So each of this is gonna last 6 weeks, right? So 6 weeks into AS, 6 weeks into PF, and 6 weeks into MOC, and then this is just going to cycle. Specifically 2 weeks after Apocalyptic, so new Pure Fiction, then 2 weeks later, so it says 135, 135, 135, all that kind of stuff. I'm not exactly sure if they're gonna be adding a 4th endgame content. If they do, it's gonna be a little bit awkward, because right now it balances out quite nicely at 135, 135. If they're gonna be adding 4, it's probably gonna be 1, 2, 3, 5, 1, 2, 3, 5, and then they'll add 5th endgame content for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So legit every single week there's gonna be endgame and absolutely nuclear content. I don't think it's gonna be that soon yet. Probably gonna see into version on the 2nd anniversary where we get to see 5 endgame content for 1 new endgame content every other week. That's gonna be absolutely insane. But for now, this is gonna be a good enough pace for my personal opinion, right? So let's just talk a little bit about this endgame content. So let's discuss about this version 2.3 update that we're gonna be having, right? And what this means for the future of Honkai Starbucks. Because previously in my chat in the daily villager section, when I get asked this question, is what do you exactly think is going to be the future for Honkai Star Rail, especially when it comes to like endgame? What is the longevity of Honkai Star Rail and all that kind of stuff? So let's just talk a little bit about here. I would say it is always a good sign to see new endgame content. I'm very, very glad that within 1 year, it is quite literally within 1 year, they have announced the 3rd endgame content on top of the 2 endgame content we currently have. Because not only does it offer flexibility when it comes to who should you build, it is a external source of like Stellar Jades, right? New 720 Stellar Jades is always gonna be good. And at the end of the day, endgame content is going to be what keeps the player base playing the game after the initial drought of content. Because I'm not sure if you guys have noticed, I'm gonna keep it a buck, right? Hey, this is not sponsored, I'm gonna keep it a buck. So far, Honkai Starbucks, the viewership, at least on Twitch, to my understanding, has not been as much as compared to like new releases, right? Compared to the Storm Disaster. Like, let's just compare right now to like the first month of Honkai Star Rail. It is what it is, right? So we're not gonna beat around the bush. Players, if there is not enough endgame content, there's always gonna be hopping off to another different game. And that is completely fine. I believe that is completely fine. And the thing is, adding new endgame, it shows that the developers, they are always gonna be here to introduce more content, bringing players back. So there's gonna be uptime, downtime, uptime, downtime. And the way that they merge Honkai Star Rail's endgame, I feel like 3 right now is pretty good. Because, okay, I'm not one of those players that juggle both Honkai Star Rail and Genshin Impact. So I could imagine players that are Hoyo slaves, right? You guys play both Genshin and Honkai Star Rail. You are pretty much gonna be playing both games like almost non-stop 24/7. Honkai has a dry patch, you play Genshin. Genshin has a dry patch, you play Honkai. So this just goes back and forth, back and forth. So the cycle between both games is gonna make player retention very, very high. Not for one game specifically, but for Hoyo games. Because newsflash, Honkai Star Rail and Genshin Impact, they are the same company, right? They are the same goddamn company. So you're pretty much like in like this ecosystem of Hoyo games. Similar to how if you are going to be using an iPhone, iPad, Mac, Apple Watch, you are like part of the ecosystem, right? So I am seeing very, very good promise for Honkai Star Rail specifically, and very, very good promise for Hoyo games specifically. Not to mention the Xenozone Zero that they're going to be releasing the 4th of July because we're releasing the message for all the kind of stuff. So yeah, a little bit off topic, what to expect when it comes to meta. We know that when Pure Fiction was first released, the meta changed drastically in a sense where previously bad units, they are brought up to a new height. We have Himiko, Herta, these units that previously you guys would probably never use you will now use them, right? And it makes clearing the pure fiction at least a lot easier, right? Or even units like Argenti performs really, really well in pure fiction. I would expect to see another shift when it comes to meta for a new class of units to start shining in this specific mode. So for example, if we are gonna be using this new Apocalyptic Shadow as a, like for example, single target or that kind of stuff, I would expect units like, for example, Yanqing, for example, Dr. Ratio and Topaz, right? For example, what other single target? I feel like these three are like the main contestants. Shushang, right? Shushang could be good, yeah? Shushang could be really, really good because you're only focused on a single target. Yep, you're right. Luca, that could be really good. Yep. So my point is this, right? If it is only strictly single target content, it becomes a lot more difficult to talk about like meta and pool value, because inherently each of these new endgame modes, they offer the same amount of rewards, which is 720 stellar jades, right? So just because a unit is really, really fun in MOC or really, really good MOC as MOC 12, it doesn't diminish the amount that you're getting from pure fiction as well as in the future Apocalyptic Shadows. You're all getting 720 and 720. For example, if you want to say, okay, you shouldn't pull for Argenti because Argenti is probably not as good as units like I don't know, Jingliu and like Imputed Lune or like Acheron in MOC. He's still good in pure fiction, but then you have to consider, is Argenti good in the new game mode? So now instead of just factoring in 2 endgame content, you have to now factor in all 3 endgame content to determine if the value is worth it for a player to pull. And this is going to be especially important for free-to-plays, a player that wants to achieve all 720 stellar jades from all 3 game modes, right? Now you have to think, not only is my unit good in one mode, like MOC, is he gonna be good in all 3 game modes? Right now, I can say without a shadow of a doubt, units that fit this criteria instantly, they are going to be your support and sustains. Your support and sustain in this game, since day 1, if you guys play gacha games, you would know, support and sustains, they are timeless, right? You're gonna be using them with every single as long as the core of the team is there, you slot in the DPS that matches the content, is gonna be good. I wouldn't be surprised if Robin, if like future supports, future sustains, they are gonna be performing well in all 3 content, be it MOC, be it pure fiction, be it Apocalyptic Shadows. They are just gonna be doing really, really well, right? The question now comes down to, what about our DPS units? How do we value a unit's pool value, especially for players that are playing for like efficiency or like meta? I mean, like, if you're gonna be pulling for husbandos or waifus, you wouldn't give a but for players that want to know like who to pull, how do you justify a DPS pool value? Because now you need to factor in all 3 endgame content, not just MOC and not just pure fiction, right? Right now, we only have pure fiction 4. And we are already in the stage where pure fiction 4, if you don't play to the buffs, you're probably not even gonna get the full 720 stellar jades. So imagine in the future, they add pure fiction 6, pure fiction 8, pure fiction 12, and they do the same for the shadow mode, Apocalyptic Shadow. You're gonna see 3 fully developed endgame mode that you probably cannot just like force your way through any further, right? Now, pure fiction 4, I would say it's really to the point where new players or like players with bad relics, you might not even be able to brute force your way without the correct units, right? So can a DPS fill all 3 endgame modes? And I'm keep it a buck, very, very, very few DPS can take this criteria right now. I think the only archetype that can kind of fit all 3, number 1 is Acheron. Right, she's good in MOC, you can run her in pure fiction. She's probably gonna be good in endgame content because, you know, the ultimate, she has 1 turn ultimates, she has 6 sets of stuff. So of players that skipped Acheron because she is not accessible to free-to-play players, it is what it is, right? So I think Acheron is definitely gonna be one of them, and it's gonna be exceedingly obvious once all 3 endgame content starts to develop into further and further stages. They introduce more and more health sponges, and it just gets increasingly more difficult, right? Another archetype that can pretty much fit into all 3 is honestly pretty accessible as well, is your DOT team comp. Because DOT team comp, it is not a matter of what is the mode, it is a matter of elements. You have Kafka triggering any sort of DOT, regardless if it's gonna be versus 3, versus 5, versus 1, whatever. As long as that DOT is applied, players should be able to clear them. You don't need very high relic investment. I think DOT as an archetype would probably do quite well for all 3 game modes. But I could be wrong in a sense where if the new boss mechanic were to introduce some crazy shit like cleanse. We have seen cleanse from enemy Bronyas. Bronya's skill instantly cleanses Cocolia, and that's that. If that happens, then ooh, it will be a bit rough. But that's very, very speculative, so we're gonna see how it goes. So that's gonna be a second archetype. And I believe the third unit or archetype of DPS units that could perform well in all 3 game modes. I'ma keep it a buck. Only other way you can kind of cover all 3 bases is probably not with a single unit. It's probably not with a single unit anymore. I feel that as long as this content develops further and further and you face into higher and higher health punch, you are probably going to have to use different DPS units for different content. You are probably not going to be able to brute force everything with your E0 S1 Qingliu, with your E0 S1 ratio, with your E0 S1 Topaz. You're probably not going to be able to do that, especially when the content gets harder and harder, right? For now, you probably can, but what about pure fiction for ratio, right? Or what about if pure, like imagine if pure fiction gets to like pure fiction 12. I feel that as time progresses, you are probably gonna have to not just rely on that one DPS and trying to just fit everything. If you're not playing Acheron and DOT, you are probably going to have to split up and specialize individual DPSs for individual game modes. You're either gonna vertically invest in the unit's idlants, get really, really good idlants like E2 Deo, E2 Acheron, all that kind of stuff, or you're probably gonna have to end up splitting them. And I think this is not that big of a surprise because as supports and sustains, their pool gets inflated. You have to incentivize players to pull different DPS units, right? Even though supports and sustain, they're super universal, but if a single DPS unit can just clear all the endgame content that Miho shows at them, then no one's gonna be pulling for any DPS units. So they kind of have to introduce these new game modes to kind of force, not really force, but like heavily incentivize players to play into their benefits. And that's just that it is what it is at this point, right? I don't think you can get by with a single DPS archetype, especially if your relics are really, really bad or like just a bad investments, no signature icon. And I'm speaking with this from a extremely relatable standpoint, because let's be real, if we're gonna be unreadable here, I am pretty sure if you have like an E2 S1 Acheron, E2 S1 you can brute force. But for players who don't have access to these units or don't have access to these icons or don't have access to like good relics, it will be very difficult. And you're just gonna have to decide how are you gonna be able to tackle the new changes in the Honkai style meta going forward into the future, right? So yeah, that's my thoughts on the future of Honkai Star Rail, especially going to patch 2.2 and even further beyond. Let me know in the comments, what do you guys think of the changes we're gonna see in the future? I am personally very excited, but yeah, I want to know your thoughts. So leave down in the comments below or drop it down in the Discord at discord.gg/Pokke. We're a very active community on Honkai on a daily basis. If not, you can drop by stream. That's stream.c/MrPokke. So you don't have MrPokke. I'll be streaming every single day. Share it down in the Discord. So that's all I have for today. All the best for adventuring pools. See you guys for the version 2.2 live stream in roughly, as of time this recording, 4 days later, 3 days later. Yeah, take care, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye. Take it easy.